This video clip is the property of the magnetic fields.
We had a cat called Dionysus. Every day another crisis. I used to keep him in my box, where I kept all my toys and blocks. He hated me, but I loved him.
Hello everybody, I'm GreenApple54. And in this video, I'll be trying something a little different and giving you my thoughts on the alternative rock band, The Magnetic Fields. The band was first formed back in 1989 by the singer Stephen Merritt and have since become known for their alternative rock sound and innovative ways of songwriting. Throughout this video, I'll be looking through their albums in the order of which they were made, pointing out each one's strengths and flaws, how they were viewed and how they added their unique marks on the Magnetic Fields catalogue, and at the very end put them in order from worst to best. This is, of course, just my opinion. The first record I'll be talking about is the 1992 EP House of Tomorrow. It's only 5 songs long and serves as the beginning to the Magnetic Fields' long discography. However, these songs sound incredibly tinny and old for the time, not comparing to the later records that were to come. This also brings me to another flaw that comes up quite a lot in the Magnetic Fields music, and that is that nearly every song sounds pretty much the same from beginning to end. Essentially, what you hear at the beginning of the song is what you'll hear through all of it, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It just depends on whether or not what you're listening to is good. And in my opinion, The House of Tomorrow is just boring. It just doesn't capture that magic of some of their later records. This would, however, change very quickly. We now move on to their first official album made in 1994 called The Charm of the Highway Strip. Each of the 10 songs on this album carries a theme of exploration and country roads. The band's instrumental palette has also expanded, featuring many synthesized sounds that are advanced for the time. Overall, it's not too bad. Each song has a defining characteristic, and it sounds very good for a 30-year-old album. I'd say the standouts for me are the songs Long Vermont Roads and Dust Bowl. I think it's a decent debut. Then we have their second album, The Wayward Bus/Distant Plastic Trees, made in the beginning of 1995. While this is the second album by the band, the sound of the songs seem very tinny and quiet compared to their first album a year before. Most of it blends together due to the typical 90s synth electronic tropes and almost monotone singing present throughout. It does, however, have a highlight in its closing track, 10,000 Fireflies, which is a nice little ballad reminiscent of the style of Kate Bush. Overall, apart from the final song, I wouldn't recommend this album to most people. There are a lot better Magnetic Fields records out there. The third album in their catalogue is Get Lost, which released just a few months after The Wayward Bus and further cemented the band as synth legends. While Wayward Bus's sound quality seemed to be a step down, Get Lost was definitely an upgrade. It also had a lot more instrument variety, managing to sound both organic and electronic at the same time, which makes it a satisfying mixture. I'd say the ones I liked the most were the final 2, All the Umbrellas in London and The Dreaming Moon, one of 3 songs in the album that involve the moon. I think Get Lost is a solid entry, and after it they would take a break and come back even better. After around 4 years of quiet, the Magnetic Fields released Holiday in 1999. I find it very hard to say my thoughts on this one, because I can't really think of anything it does that's truly unique. It does have great use of synth and pretty cool vocals, but it doesn't seem like something that would release in 1999, like it belongs 10 years in the past. Maybe this was the band's intention with the music, and it does have glimpses of clear-sounding beats and satisfying chords, but none of the tracks really hooked me in. Apart from small standout sounds scattered sparsely throughout, like the radio jingle BBC Radiophonic Workshop, and the commercially successful Strange Powers, I don't really have much else to say about it. It's not an incredibly bad album, but it does pale in comparison to what came next. We've now arrived at 69 Love Songs, which is widely considered to be the band's magnum opus. This album is all about love and contains beautifully written lyrics and a well-mixed arrangement of organic instruments and synth. It gives you plenty to listen to, since it's basically 4 albums in one, and manages to have a nice flow without all the songs blending together. My personal favourites so far are The Book of Love and the catchy Crazy for You But Not That Crazy. 69 Love Songs was the moment when the Magnetic Fields rose into the mainstream and established themselves as a household name. With the 90s finished with a bang, it was now onto the 2000s, and an interesting experiment. 5 years later, the album I is released, made under the company Non-Such Records for the first time. It was made as part of what would become a 3-album collection released over the span of 7 years called the No Synth Trilogy, meaning that none of the songs on each album were made using synthesized instruments of any kind. After listening to the entirety of the album during one day, I can confidently say that I is my favourite Magnetic Fields record. It's the perfect mix of steady beats, catchy tunes, warming sounds, and Stephen Merritt's signature lyrical charm. The guitar strumming and ukulele plucking in I Don't Believe You, the chorus hook in I Thought You Were My Boyfriend, the comedic romance of I'm Tongue-Tied, and the beautiful piano aside Merritt's auto-tuned vocals in It's Only Time are a few examples of why I think it's amazing. Of course, nothing's perfect, and there are a few skippable songs amongst the stars, like the drony opener I Die, and the kind of boring Infinitely Late at Night. But overall, I think the album is just shy of a masterpiece. After another 4 years of silence, the Magnetic Fields released Distortion in 2008. It's an album that does exactly what it says in the title. Every track has a grungy droning sound present in the background, which I think really takes away from the songs themselves. I've tried listening to the lyrics and instruments within the noise, and while there are some standouts like California Girls and the opener Freeway, even they are ruined by the headache-inducing heavy guitar. While I'm sure there are some people who like or appreciate the more rock-type sound this album has, the idea, sadly, isn't for me. The final album in the Magnetic Fields No Synth trilogy is 2010's Realism. Realism has always been a difficult one to rank. The opening track is one of my favourite Magnetic Fields songs, You Must Be Out of Your Mind, amazingly written and performed with a simple but effective sound. The songs after it have their moments. Interlude is short but sweet, We Are Having a Hootenanny is pretty catchy once you get into it, and unconventional instruments like the banjo, xylophone and signature ukulele are featured in most of the tracks. This does, however, cause it to slightly enter the pitfall of more of the same, despite the original lyrics and chord progressions. Despite its flaws, I think it's a good album that I like to revisit from time to time. Then came 2012's Love at the Bottom of the Sea, a return to form for some people, a step down for others. It marks the band's triumphant return to synthesizers for the first time since 69 Love Songs. After giving the whole thing a listen recently, I actually think it's pretty damn good. I found it to be more immersive and catchy than Realism, with each track sounding unique. It has head-bobbing electronic beats with a few organic instruments blended into the foreground, but it also has creative and often daring lyrics, of course written by song powerhouse Merit. There are instances where I wish the songs would be taken a step further, with bigger sounds and a longer runtime, since the album's only half an hour long. But this doesn't take away my enjoyment. Love at the Bottom of the Sea, for me, is an underrated piece of music, and has become one of my favourite records of theirs. It took a while, but eventually another Magnetic Fields record emerged in 2017 called 50 Song Memoir. It's an album of songs split into 5 discs that are meant to show the first 50 years of singer Stephen Merritt's own life. This is a fantastic concept as it opens the doors for storytelling and reflection. The first disc is Merritt telling us about his early childhood days, recounting having a cat called Dionysus, Judy Garland's funeral, the singer Grace Slick's protesting, and the joy of imagination. The second disc is Merritt from 11 to 20, the days of new music appearing, anger towards a family member, learning how to play the synthesizer, and the first feelings of attraction and missing the past. Disc 3 is the university years, reading a favourite book, finding new friends, the day he finally snapped, and the fear of going bankrupt. The last 2 discs are a little less yearly event focused, and are more songs that represent something Merritt cared or thought about in that year. They're more about the little things, feelings of distrust with a partner, a dance club long forgotten, how beautiful a seemingly dull city is when in the snow. And as we get into Merritt's 40s, we learn about his hate mail, living in a snow-white cottage, the constant changes of New York, and the sad reflection of old memories before a 50th birthday. All of these experiences combined together make this album an extraordinary listen from beginning to end, and very close to being my #1 favourite. We finally arrive at the Magnetic Fields' newest album, released during the 2020 lockdown, called Quickies. The tracks in this album are short but sweet. None of them are over 3 minutes long, some are less than 30 seconds, and is something I find a little more approachable and digestible than 69 Love Songs. Most of the songs are made with just one instrument, but each one is again unique in sound and lyrics, which proves that even after nearly 30 years of making albums, the band still retains their signature talents. My personal favourites on this one are the opener Castles of America, the piano-led The Day the Politicians Died, and the humour-filled My Stupid Boyfriend. Quickies is a record I keep coming back to and get to discover more about as time goes on. And if this truly is the last album of the Magnetic Fields, then it's definitely a great way to end their discography. And that's it. Those were all 12 Magnetic Fields records so far. Some were definitely better than others, and if I had to put them in a ranking, I think it would be this.